Hey guys, welcome to a video about math, and for this lesson we're going over section 2.1 properties. Okay, so this is for 2.1 properties, and we're going to talk about rules first. Okay, so you guys did rules, you guys have done math for more than 7 years, right? And in this 7 years you should probably know that math is full of rules. Okay, so an example of the rule is a rule we learned was that when you're multiplying fraction 2/3 times 4/5, you multiply the top number together and you multiply the bottom number together. So 2 times 4 gives you 8 and 3 times 5 gives you 15. Okay, that's an example of a rule you learned. Another rule was that if you're adding, okay, and there's a parentheses, what you do first was that you're supposed to add the parentheses before you add the numbers outside. So 1 plus 2 gives you 3, and you bring down the 3, so 3 plus 3 gives you 6. Okay, and those are complicated rules, but you guys also learn simple rules like 1 plus 1 is equals to 2. You might not know that, but that's a rule in math. 1 plus 1 will always give you 2. And the rules we're going to learn, so the main topic for this lesson, properties, we're going to learn more rules, but this rule will allow us to do a little bit more. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, we'll find out. So first of all, commutative property. So have you guys noticed that when you add 8 plus 3, you'll get 11, right? Obviously, that's 8 plus 3. You can even do your finger counting method and you'll get 11. Now, notice that if you add 3 plus 8, you'll still get the same answer, 11. So it doesn't matter which order we add them, your answer will still be 11. And this also applies when you're multiplying numbers. Let's say you're multiplying 7 times 5. Well, 7 times 5 gives you 35. Now let's say you're not good at multiplication of 7, right? Don't worry, I also had troubles with multiplication table of 7, but what I do know is that I'm a bit of an expert when I multiply by 5. 5, 10, 15, all those stuff. So instead of 7 times 5, can I do 5 times 7 instead? Well, let's find out. We have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. So 5 times 7 gives you 35. And as you can see, it doesn't really matter which order we multiply the numbers, you still get the same answer. And this is what we call commutative property. Okay, so commutative property allows us to move around the numbers. So commutative property comes from the word commute. So when you commute, what are you doing? You're moving from one place to another. So let's say you're going to, but at the end of your commute, you're still the same person. So example here, you can see that the number themselves are moving, but the end result will always be the same. 35, 35, 11, 11. So here's the definition of a commutative property. Commutative property states that the order when you add or multiply doesn't affect the sum or product. Okay? Basically, it's basically this. The order we added or multiply will not affect your sum or product, so it doesn't affect your answer. So there's two types of commutative property of addition and commutative property of multiplication. Okay, so in commutative property of addition, an example is 2 plus 9 will always give you is the same as adding 9 plus 2. For multiplication, we have 7 times 8 will always give you the same as answer as 8 times 7. Okay, now can you guys give me an example for your own addition? Okay, good. So let's say we have 1 plus 3 gives you 3 plus 1. That's a commutative property. Now let's move on to multiplication. And another example is, what's your example? Good job if you did so. If you did not answer, then better luck next time. Let's say we have 5 times 2 will give you the same answer as 2 times 5. So hopefully you get the idea of what is a commutative property. Now think of commutative property like you're eating fruits. So you can use commutative property to tell your parents, oh, I can eat ice cream before I eat my vegetable. Because even if I eat my ice cream after my vegetable, they'll still end up in my stomach. So by commutative property, it doesn't really matter. Well, don't say that to your parents. Your parents will probably get mad at me. Anyway, here's a warning though. Commutative property doesn't work for subtraction or division. Look, 3 minus 8 does not equal to 8 minus 3. Same thing with 10 divided by 5 and 5 divided by 10. 10 divided by 5 gives you 2 and 5 divided by 10 gives you decimal. Okay, now those two are two different things. Commutative property works only in addition and multiplication. Now let's move on to the next property, associative property. So before I talk about associative property, imagine you're doing a yard sale. Okay, so you have a toy, a stool, and a painting you made, and you're selling them for $2, $4, and $5. Okay, so far so good. Now imagine, here's the situation. Imagine your neighbor, Mr. Joe, arrived first, and he bought the tool, the toy, and the stool together. Okay, and then Miss Anne bought the painting. Okay, that is, if you add them together, you'll get 2 plus 4. Okay, this is Mr. Joe, and Miss Anne bought the painting, so we have 2 plus 4 plus 5. And remember, when you're inside the parentheses, you're supposed to do the inside of the parentheses first. 2 plus 4 gives you 6. Bring down the plus 5, and you'll get 11. So at the end of your yard sale, you're going to receive $11 because all of your items are sold. Now, what happens when, instead of this situation happening, a different scenario happened? Let's say Miss Anne came first and bought the painting and the stool. Okay, something's wrong. Okay, my bad on that. Imagine Miss Anne came first and bought the painting and the stool, and Mr. Joe was only able to buy the toy. So if I write that down, you'll get 4 plus 5 because of Miss Anne, and then we add plus 2. So we have 4 plus 5 plus 2. So 4 plus 5 gives you 9, and then you bring down the 2, so you have 2 plus 9, and you get 11. So it doesn't, at the end of this scenario, you receive $11, right? Now, it doesn't really matter whether this situation happened or this situation happened, because at the end of the day, you sold all of your items, right? And you receive $11. So the order we add, or who bought which item doesn't really matter to us. Okay, and this is what associative property is. It doesn't matter which grouping we add first, 4 plus 5 or 2 plus 4. At the end of the day, you'll get the same answer. Okay, here's another one. Think of associative property. Think of it comes from the word associate. And when you associate with someone, you became close to that person, right? And you form a group. It's like a groupie. Now, let's say you're associated. Say that Anika, Becky, and Cora. So Anika, Becky, and Cora are associate. When Anika drives over to Becky, both of them have to go to Cora to pick her up. Or if Cora goes to Becky's house, Anika picks them up, and the same result happens. All three girls will be at the same car. Okay? So here's the formal definition of associative property. Associative property states that the order in which three or more numbers are grouped for addition or multiplication does not affect the sum or product. And again, there's two types of associative property, addition and multiplication. An example of addition, associative property of addition is we have 2 plus 3, and then you add plus 4 will be the same as 2 plus 3 plus 4, and 3 plus 4 is the one you add first rather than 2 plus 3. Another example is, let's say we have 11 plus 8 plus 3. Again, I'm just making up these numbers. Will be the same as 11 plus 8 plus 3. Okay? As you can see, it doesn't matter which order of the parentheses comes first. It can be on the later half or in the former half, but the second part will have different parentheses placed. Okay, so here we have 8 plus 3. On the second one, we have 11 plus 8 as the group. And you can probably think of an example for multiplication already. It's probably the same, but just change the addition to multiplication. So it looks like this. Let's say we have 2 times 3 times 4 is the same as 2 times 3 times 4, and 3 and 4 is the one that's grouped. And another example is 7 plus 3, or 7 times 3 times 11. 3 and 11 is grouped together, and on the second part it's 7 times 3 that is grouped together, and then we multiply by 11. And on your assignment, you're going to give me an example like this. Okay? Of course, you're not going to give me the exact numbers. You're going to have your own examples. So this is examples for associative property. This will give you guys, you're going to give me an example like this for your commutative property. And then oh yeah, and then let's move on to the next lesson. But before we move on to the next lesson, I want to talk about a one. Okay, like commutative property, associative property doesn't work for subtraction and division. Associative property only works for addition and multiplication. Okay, so you're not gonna move around the parentheses when you're subtracting or dividing, only when you're adding or multiplying. Now let's move on to the next property, our last property for today, identity property. So what is an identity? Well, in English, identity means the fact of being who or what a person or thing is. So an example is, my identity is a math teacher in FBLG that teaches 7th grade math. That can be my identity. However, identity in math means a different kind of identity. In math, identity is a number, okay? Not some abstract idea, but a number. That when you add or multiplied with any number, the second number will remain the same. Uh, there's multiple kinds of identity, okay? So there's here we're going to figure out two identities: the identity of addition and the identity of multiplication. So what number do we add to 9 such that your answer is 9? Well, it's 0. 0 is the only number we can add. So that means 0 is the identity. Okay, 0 is the identity of addition. Now, what is the identity of multiplication? What number do we multiply to 9 to get your answer to be 9? Well, it can't be 0 because if you multiply 9 with 0, you'll get 0. So what do you guys think is the identity of multiplication? 1. 1 is the only number we can multiply to 9 such that our answer is 9. Okay? So our identity is 9. Okay? So here it is. Okay? So hopefully you get the idea of what is identity. So now we can talk about the identity property. Identity property states that the sum or product of a number and the respective identity is the same number. Okay? So what does that mean? Once again, there's two types of identity, and what it means is that it looks like this. If you add 9 plus 0, you'll get 9. That's basically what that definition is trying to say. If you add 111 plus 0, you'll get 111. Same thing with multiplication. If you multiply 12 times 1, you'll get 12. If you multiplied 1310 times 1, you'll get 1310. Okay? That's identity property. If you multiply a number with the identity, so 1 or 0, you'll get the number back. That's basically what it's trying to say. And that's the end of this lesson. Hopefully you guys learned a lot and you're able to finish your homework. That's it for this video. I'll see you again on the next video. Bye.